All right, welcome to the Young Turks. We got a wild and crazy show for you guys today. I'm in a serious mood, dude. Meaning I'm not so serious. I'm feeling feisty. We got a random ass show coming up for you. Do we have debt ceiling? Of course. Jesus took the day off. It's 99% debt ceiling. Nah, I'm kidding. I'm playing bust nuts. All right, but we do have, of course, important news on that. We got a couple of great guests on that, actually. But overall, I'm going to war. Furthermore, random. Furthermore, okay, I've been talking to the media for the last week or so, right? And every once in a while somebody says, oh, now that you're off MSNBC, what are you going to do? I'm going to Disney World. I don't know what that means. What am I going to do? I do the Young Turks. So I told them.
He's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
I'm right here, man. Never went anywhere. All right. So, look, I got random stories for you in the beginning. Furthermore, as I told you, we're going to do a little debt ceiling freezy freeze. And then Michelle Bachmann, is she responsible for bullying? That's in the second hour with Anna. My favorite story of the day is in the second hour with Anna. I'm not sure you're going to agree with me, but I think it's the best news I've received. Bill O'Reilly on the Norwegian dude. He's got great crazy theories. That's coming up in a little bit. What else do I have for you? I've got more crazy Michelle Bachmann. Oh, Obama and the bloop, bloop, bloop. Bad numbers on Obama. Okay, well, we'll see how he's doing with libs, okay? That's very interesting and very important. Now, let's talk about random.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Down goes Woo! Down goes Woo! The man in the tiger outfit. Not Tiger Mom, Tiger Congressman is resigning. David Woo is done. All right, now here's what happened to David Woo. We said he should resign yesterday. There he is. There's my friend. / not my friend. He is a 56-year-old congressman. He had erratic behavior, including emailing this picture to staffers while it was not Halloween. And that was during his campaign. 7 staffers quit, giving weird, angry speeches, etc. But the latest story we had yesterday was that an 18-year-old girl, who was, by the way, the daughter of one of his high school friends and top contributors, said that he had made sexual advances towards her that were incredibly inappropriate. She didn't press charges because they were the only 2 people in the room, but she finally called his congressional office and said that he had done this. And he was thinking about sticking around, but now he says, okay, you got me, okay? I'm going to stick around for the debt ceiling vote, and then I'm gone, and I'm going to go, and find a new career. I'm going to leave it right there, okay? David Woo. Well, again, it wasn't nice knowing you. You're a weird dude. Okay, and look, if you got mental health problems, I hear you. Go get counseling on that, but we can't have you in Congress. So, point number 1. Point number 2, Michelle Bachmann. Here comes Michelle Bachmann again. God, this is so fun. She's trying to mock Obama for using a teleprompter. But look at what she does. Go.
I know you're not used to seeing a president without teleprompters, but I'm just here to tell you, President Bachmann will not have teleprompters in the White House.
Come on, that's awesome. That's wonderfully ironic. She says, I don't need a prompter. President Bachmann doesn't need a prompter. Apparently you do. Might have helped you in that case. Look, again, saying President Obama is no big deal. Screwing up your own name. Yeah, but again, no big deal. Except you can't do that while you're making fun of the president for using a teleprompter. But the teleprompter thing always amuses me, man. Every single president has used a teleprompter back to George Washington. As he was chopping the cherry tree, he is like, I am now chopping down the cherry tree. No, listen, seriously, in modern times, Ronald Reagan, George W. they all used it. But that's amazing thing about Fox News, conservative media, et cetera, and how silly the mainstream media is for going along with that meme, right? They just invented it like as if Obama came up with the idea of a teleprompter, like, as Bush would say, the Google just invented it. And then they come out and they're like, oh, did you know Obama is giving a speech that was written earlier to put on a teleprompter? Yeah, of course, I know that. Everybody knows that, except apparently Fox News viewers, and so they're taken aback by it. So, by the way, if you say, hey, Ronald Reagan also used a teleprompter, they'd be like, how dare you? That is the great Ronald Reagan. All right, so now, next random story. I told you we're going to start random. Now, this is somewhat related to the debt ceiling, but nonetheless, we're going to save that for a little later. But Paul Krugman coming out with an article talking about how this cult is driving Washington crazy. No, he's not talking about the cult of the right wing. It's the cult of centrism. I was like, oh, thank God, finally somebody said it, right? And I love these quotes that he's got. He says, you have to ask, what would it take for these news organizations, this is the part I love, and pundits to actually break with the convention that both sides are equally at fault? Look, this is the thing I talk about all the time. If there were sports reporters, they'd all be fired because the Steelers and the Cowboys would play. Steelers win 42-10, which is, of course, normally what would happen. And then if it's CNN and it's a lot of these pundits and major media organizations, they'd be like, well, Pittsburgh says they won, Dallas says they won. No, somebody won. The score was 42-10. You can't look at the Republicans saying, hey, even though President Obama and Harry Reid is giving us 100% of what we wanted earlier, they're giving us $2.7 trillion in cuts and asking for no revenue increase in return. Well, we're going to say now positions have shifted and we're going to call it even again. That is not even. In fact, you should be deriding the president and the Democrats for losing so badly, okay? And that's subjective. To say that they're not losing is weird. To say that you've got to split the difference again every time that the Republicans move the goalposts, well, that's a dereliction of duty if you're an actual journalist. Krugman continues. The both sides are at fault people have to know better. If they refuse to say it, it's out of some combination of fear and ego, of being unwilling to sacrifice their treasured pose of being above the fray. That's 100% right. And one other point he makes that's very good is he says, look, then there's no price for extremism. Because the more extreme you are, you don't get called out on it. It only helps you because you keep moving the center, keep moving the center. No matter how far you go out to the right, or theoretically the left, although no one goes there, no matter how far out you go, the mainstream media will immediately call a new center and go, well, the Republicans say this and the Democrats say that, so the answer must be in the center. The center of what? I've been saying this for so long. They've moved the political center in Washington, not in the country, in Washington so far to the right, and yet still the mainstream media is like, I don't know, the Democrats say this, Pittsburgh says this, the Cowboys say that, I'm going to call it in the middle. All right, I love that Krugman pointed that out. Arianna Huffington also saying, look, this debt ceiling stuff, she says, calls it, quote, the myth of grand bargains and win-win unicorns. This is what I was saying yesterday. Where's the win-win? Where's our win? There's no wins. As I pointed out yesterday on the show, there's two options. One is 100% defeat. The other one is worse. The 100% defeat is the one I just outlined. The second one is the so-called grand bargain, where we cut the spending and we cut taxes for the rich and we cut entitlements. Now, we increase taxes, but don't worry, that's mainly on you, on the middle class and the poor. So how you like them apples, right? And it's nice to see other people writing about it, because with everybody else constantly doing what Krugman's talking about, you begin to think, am I the one who took the crazy pill? Some executives would think so. So anyway, it's great to see, like, hey, yes, of course. I'm not seeing it wrong. It's 100% to nothing. By the way, the best part of Arianna Huffington's article was a quote she had from Larry Summers. Now, Larry Summers was incredibly conservative when he was inside the White House. Now that he has stepped out of the bubble, even though he is still one of the most conservative Democrats you could find in the country, one of the most pro-Wall Street Democrats you could possibly ever find in history, okay? And he's part of the problem, he's part of the guys that started the problem in the first place. Despite all that, when he steps out of the White House bubble, he's like, yeah, wow, why aren't we doing anything about jobs? And she points out this interview that he had with Charlie Rose. He's like, yeah, that looks like in the rest of the country, that's the biggest issue. Of course it's the biggest issue. Sorry for waving my arms. Anyway, but here's the killer quote from Larry Summers. When asked, hey, how come we're not focusing on the unemployed and the jobs problem? He says, because, quote, those without jobs aren't in a position to contribute to political campaigns. And to a disproportionate extent are the people who don't vote. So he's saying, look, the don't vote part that's your own fault. If you don't vote, well, then you're going to get screwed, right? But the much larger issue is the first one that he mentioned. So if you're unemployed, you don't have lobbyists. You don't have people to contribute to political campaigns. And Larry Summers was in the White House during Obama, during Clinton. He knows better than anyone else. Campaign contributions are the ones that count. So as you look at it, you say, what? A new poll came out. God, all Washington has done, all the media has done, is talk about deficit, debt ceiling, right? And no matter, despite all that conversation, you know what comes out number one that people are most concerned about? Jobs. Nobody talks about jobs. It's still at 39%. And despite all this talk, the debt concerns is still only at 29%. If they switched it and they talked about jobs in Washington, debt concern would be at like 3% and jobs would be at 59%. But despite all this overwhelming propaganda, jobs is still a bigger concern. But why doesn't anybody talk about it in Washington? Because the jobless don't have money to contribute to politicians. That's the real world, and even Larry Summers admits it. Speaking of which, by the way, random story number 18 or whatever we're on. BP announced its second quarter profits just now. There's the spill, of course, and they're paying the damages on that. And you know how tough Obama has been on the business community, being the socialist that he is, and they have this uncertain environment, and they haven't allowed enough drilling. So you can understand why BP only made $5.6 billion this quarter. Not in the year, in the quarter. $5.6 billion. Do you know how much the top 5 companies have made, the 5 oil companies have made in the last 10 years? $900 billion in profits. That's almost $1 trillion, and that's in profits. Now, I bring that up to you because these are the same companies that are robbing us of $40 to $70 billion over 10 years in subsidies. We're subsidizing them to drill for oil, as if drilling for oil isn't profitable enough and they needed a tax break, an incentive for the American people to drill for oil. What a joke. What a colossal joke. But no, Obama's being too tough on the oil companies, too tough on business. That's the second part of the joke. They're laughing all the way to the bank. BP made so much money in profits, they literally don't know what to do with it. All right, we move on to random story number 19. It's a shame Jesus is missing this. All these non-debt ceiling stories. Okay, all right. No good deed goes unpunished. So, of course, when Teresa Edwards and June Clarkson, who were prosecutors in Florida, found out that the banks were actually playing around with the mortgages and not carrying them out properly, doing it in an illegal way, and they pointed it out so they could save people's homes, so that justice could be done. Guess what happened to them? Of course, they were fired. And when you listen to the explanation of why they were fired, you'll know that there's no question why they were fired. First of all, the person who fired them is Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi. And she says that the reasons they were fired were proper identification and analysis of legal issues. In other words, this is the prosecutor who fired them. Don't it? Anyway, so she says that they had proper identification and analysis of legal issues, meaning that they improperly identified issues, which was they improperly went after the banks. How dare they, right? Second part of why they got fired, their judgment in discussing matters related to pending investigations with third parties. In other words, they told the press that we weren't going to do anything about it, and that really made them mad. Point number 3, for professionalism to opposing counsel. In other words, they were too tough on the bank's lawyers. Maybe they waved their arms too much. This is what happens, man. If you challenge the powerful, no matter what industry you're in apparently, you're a goner. They got no interest in you. So you did something good for the American people, for the people of Florida, and you found out that they were foreclosing on homes they shouldn't have been foreclosing on, you saved those homes, you will be punished. These people are fired. They're gone. The bad guys remain. The good guys are relieved of duty. That's unfortunately the country. And by the way, don't worry, the Florida Attorney General says, oh, we are going to continue those cases. But the new prosecutors that they gave the case to, they did not allow the two lawyers that were leaving to provide transition notes to the new lawyers. In other words, all that good stuff that you did, finding out what they were doing wrong, we're going to throw that in the garbage can, and we're going to let the lawyers start over again. And especially now that they've gotten the memo, if they do a good job, they're also goners. So, gee, who's the governor of Florida in favor of? The citizens of Florida or the bankers of Florida? And the bankers nationwide. With a fraud like Rick Scott in the governor's office, it is not surprising to find out that, of course, he's completely and 100% on the side of the bankers. Remember, Rick Scott, the man who did the largest Medicare fraud in American history, and he's the governor of Florida. Every time I think about that, I think that the Democrats are the worst party I've ever seen. You couldn't name a person that would lose to Rick Scott if they ran an effective campaign. If you take J.R. Jackson right now, run him against Rick Scott, he'd win in a second. Okay. Hey, J.R., if the guy you were running against ran the largest Medicare fraud in United States history, would you point that out in a couple of ads?
Yeah, I'd say speak to my campaign manager, Cenk, about this.
Now, watch out for his arms, though. He waves.
He's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
All right. So random story number 28. Moody's says that Greece's debt rating is in a lot of trouble because their default is almost certain. There goes Greece. It was nice knowing you. We move forward. Okay. But don't worry. Everything's going to be all right. The bankers told me. By the way, quick note on Greece. And, you know, they say that because of new European Union action, even though their default is certain, that it might not affect blah, 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 blah. My ass. Okay, they're in a lot of trouble. So, by the way, this is really important for you to understand. All these debt problems that Greece is having and some of the other countries in the European Union, it's because they did all these derivatives that we've been telling you about, warning you about, et cetera. And the bankers came in and said, oh, we got a great idea, man. No, seriously. Like what happened in Jefferson County, Alabama. Oh, well, let's build this great sewer. Don't worry. And then we'll do a derivative on top of a derivative, and you'll only owe billions for that sewer system later, and it'll bankrupt Jefferson. By the way, Jefferson County, also about the default. Okay, that's here in the United States. And for the same reason, because the bankers duped them. Now, Greece did overspend, but there's a huge portion of this where the banks took them for a ride. But who's going to pay for that ride? Of course, the people of Greece, and by the way, the people of the entire European Union. You know, another possibility is that we tell the banks, yeah, you know what? How about we don't pay off your financial shenanigans? So we certainly don't pay it off at 100%. You think about that? Oh, that would give problems to Wall Street, and that would cause concern. So, of course, we can't have that. We'll come back to that in the debt ceiling talk. Okay. On we go to the Norwegian story. So, now, everybody's heard of Anders Breivik. What am I, Michelle Bachmann? Anders Bering Breivik. It's like a tongue twister, right? How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? All right. Anders Behring Breivik is, of course, a killer in Norway. He is a Christian fundamentalist. Oh, I'm sorry. How could I call him a Christian fundamentalist? Bill O'Reilly's going to tell me what a terrible idea that is and how wrong that is. Let's watch.
Once again, we can find no evidence. Now, on Sunday, the New York Times headlined, "Has horrors emerged? Norway charges Christian extremist." A number of other news organizations like the LA Times and Reuters also played up the Christian angle. But Breivik is not a Christian. That's impossible. No one believing in Jesus commits mass murder. The man might have called himself a Christian on the net, but he is certainly not of that faith.
I just love that, man. No. By definition, I say he's not a Christian, even though his manifesto said that he called himself a Knights Templar. Those are the Christians who fought back against Muslims and other religions, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, the police chief in Norway called him a Christian fundamentalist. The New York Times and the mainstream media didn't make that up. They listened to the police chief in Norway who said, and they looked at his manifesto, and they looked at his YouTube video where the guy kept saying that Islam is coming, and us Christians, we have to fight back for Europe. Knights Templar, Christian fundamentalism. But no. How dare you call him Christian? No. Only the Muslims are guilty. Can you imagine Bill O'Reilly coming out saying, well, obviously the people who did 9/11 are not Muslims, because anyone who believes in the Prophet Muhammad would never do anything like this. Oh, you didn't see that on Fox News? Yeah, I didn't see that either. So when Muslims do anything, whether they're devout, they're not devout, they read the Quran correctly, they misread the Quran, it doesn't really matter. They're Muslims, and it's part of an ideology to take us over. When Christians do the same exact thing, no, they're not really Christians. No. Because Christians are, by definition, good people. Hence, obviously, he couldn't be a Christian. Problem solved. Now, O'Reilly continues. Let's watch.
Once again, we can find no evidence, none, that this killer practiced Christianity in any way. So why is the angle
Except for the
being played
manifesto
up?
and the police chief.
Two reasons. First, the liberal media wants to make an equivalency between the actions of Breivik and the Oklahoma City bomber Tim McVeigh and al-Qaeda. The left wants you to believe that fundamentalist Christians are a threat, just like crazy jihadists are. The second reason the liberal media is pushing the Christian angle is they don't like Christians very much because we are too judgmental. Many Christians oppose abortion, gay marriage, and legalized narcotics, secular left causes.
I didn't know Jesus had a position on legalized narcotics. From what I understand in the Bible, it says that you should use all of the, what was it? Not all the weed that God gives you, but all of the things that you can grow. What is it? Reverend J.R. Jackson, help me out, man. What does it say in the Bible about the weed?
I'm sorry, I'm just not following you.
You're not? That's from Cypress Hill. I need Jesus here. They quote the Bible when they say, time to hit the bong. So, first of all, that part of it is made up by Bill O'Reilly. Of course, I don't know how he brought narcotics into this issue. But, of course, the first part is the part that I love. Poor Christians. They're the victims here. Did you notice that? It's because the media hates and the liberals hate the Christians that they say that this Christian fundamentalist killed 93 people. But he did kill 93 people. We didn't make that up. And he wrote that he's a Christian fundamentalist, and the police chief said he was a Christian fundamentalist. We didn't make that up, but no, that doesn't count. Look, they're a comedy routine over there at Fox News. They are, right? It doesn't matter. You can do 10 more of those, and O'Reilly will go, nope, not a Christian, not a Christian, not a Christian. And every time a Muslim does it, they're coming, don't you see? They're going to take over. All right, now we go to Glenn Beck. Now, yesterday on the program, we showed you a clip of Glenn Beck calling the kids at that camp Hitler Youth. In fact, let's play for that. Let's play that for you again real quick.
And as the thing started to unfold, and then there was a shooting at a political camp, which sounds a little like, the Hitler Youth or whatever. I mean, who does a camp for kids that's all about politics?
Who?
Disturbing.
Disturbing.
But anyway, so there's...
Very disturbing. And who would do a camp like that? Only the Tampa 912 Project. That is, the 912 Project, like Beck's project. Now, to be fair, this one is not associated with Glenn Beck. They came up with this on their own. Kids aged 8 to 12 would be taught certain things at this summer camp, including government cannot force me to be charitable. So they're teaching the kids, make sure you're not charitable, or the government doesn't force you to be. It's modeled after vacation Bible schools, which is also for kids, which also does indoctrination. But then we've told you about this camp before. It's funny. It's got all these things like they put you in a really boring room and they call it Europe. And then they make you go through a maze. And at the end, you get into an exciting room and they throw confetti on you and they call it America. Okay? And then they make the kids pick up the confetti because they have to learn that along with freedom comes responsibility. Except they didn't ask for the confetti. You threw the confetti at them. Okay, so they teach all these absurd things. They teach them about how this candy that they're giving them is like gold, and the gold is better than the paper currency. Okay, now look, that's the 912 Project, but Beck didn't necessarily sanction that, right? So you go to his website, And on Beck's own 912 project, there are children's summer patriot camps to provide heritage-based education for youth. Who would do that to kids? Political indoctrination like that. Hitler Youth. Now look, him calling those kids who got killed in Norway Hitler Youth is already beyond abhorrent. I can't believe he would go in that direction. Now later, of course, he criticized the killer. Wow, thank you, or you're not merciful, right? But if I'm one of the kids' dads and he called them Hitler Youth, I'd be so livid. And by the way, of course, what the Labor Party teaches there is the exact opposite of fascism. And is on the other side of the political spectrum, although we don't even have to get into that issue. But the reason that Beck does it in the first place is because, as always, it's projection. That's what they want to do. They want to indoctrinate the kids. So the minute they see anything like that, they accuse liberals, progressives, wherever they are, of doing the same thing. They're like, oh, you see that? They want to indoctrinate the kids like we do. That is unacceptable, Hitler Youth. You know what? Let me give you one other thing about this, which is really interesting. You know, when Obama went to go speak to the students, Fox News went crazy, indoctrinating the youth, he's trying to brainwash them, etc. You know that when they went to the Nixon library and they found all those files on Roger Ailes, who used to work for Nixon in media and communications, one of the suggestions that Roger Ailes had was, go to the schools so you can indoctrinate the kids early. It's always their plan that they project onto liberals and progressives to criticize them because they know they should be getting criticized for it because they know what they're up to. It's conservative 101. All right. Oh, by the way, one last quick thing on this because we are running short on time. Wall Street Journal, Jerusalem Post, and Pat Buchanan all have editorials saying, well, it's a damn shame what happened, but let's not forget Breivik's important message that the Muslims are coming. And we should not let his actions obscure the fact that we should in fact be scared of Muslims, not the Christian fundamentalists who killed all those kids, but the Muslims who did not kill them. And that, in fact, this is a good opportunity raised by Breivik to how much we should hate the Muslims. Gee, I wonder if the Wall Street Journal being owned by Rupert Murdoch has had an effect yet. All right, Young Turks. All right, back on the Young Turks. We are assured this time that the drilling is done. There's never been a building in the history of mankind where there's been more drilling. I was telling these guys, I've never worked in an office building in my life where there was drilling, except this one, where it's constant. It's amazing. Anyway, so we have a couple more great stories for you guys, and then we are going to do a short post game. We have another fun Bachmann story. They're endless. Yes. And then I want to do one of my favorite stories, which Anna did not want to do. Which one is it? Well, you'll see in the post game for the members. By the way, if yesterday's members only was really good, okay, where Anna lost it. Okay.
I did.
Okay.
I used a word that I usually don't use.
Okay, but it was interesting. Anyway, check that out if you're a member. Okay, what's next?
Los Angeles will begin phasing out the red light cameras. It's a good day in America.
No, favorite story of the day. I love this story. Those red light cameras are the worst. If you don't have them in your local area, they take a picture of you if you go past the red light, except a lot of times they take a picture of you when it's a yellow light.
Yeah.
Okay, and by far the most amount of tickets that they give out is on so-called illegal right turns, which I'm not sure are illegal at all. Okay, so they're not even taking a picture of you when you're actually going past the red light.
There have also been numerous studies done on these red light cameras to see whether or not they're actually effective in keeping cities safe, right? And they're not, because people get so panicky when they know that they're at an intersection that as soon as the light turns yellow, they slam on their brakes, which causes more people to hit them or rear end them.
Yeah, and look, this has been my argument for a long time. We have a yellow light for a reason. Okay, you're not supposed to slam on your brakes on the yellow light. You're supposed to make a judgment call. Okay, is it more dangerous to slam on the brakes or more dangerous to go through? Yellow light does not mean red light. Okay, and
by the way, just go through.
It's just the comment. It depends on the situation, Obama, okay? Okay, by the way, Jill was so panicked about the red lights in LA, she said that if she ever crossed one of the red lights and the camera went off, or she thought the camera was going to go off, she would do this.
Yeah,
because they couldn't capture her face and then give her the ticket, except that she's driving through a red light like this. Okay, it's disaster on top of disaster. But if you weren't convinced yet, turns out that it costs the city more money to install and maintain those cameras than the revenue they made off of it. So it was a lose-lose for everybody.
That's the only reason why they decided to phase them out. I mean, they completely ignored the studies that said that they were ineffective, that they were not a good idea. They completely ignored the fact that people were panicking because of those red light cameras and doing things that were actually more harmful. But as soon as the city actually loses money, well, then now all of a sudden, we got to change the law. By the way, another thing, I don't know if this is true of every other city that has the red light cameras, but I know this is true of Los Angeles. People would get the red light camera tickets in the mail, and then they would just ignore them, and nothing would happen to them. Because the city was not enforcing the tickets.
Oh, well, that's the only good part. And if you paid for it now, though, how doubly angry are you?
I know.
Okay, but now that they've passed the law that they're going to phase them out, you're supposed to ignore them. From now on, if you get a red light ticket from those cameras in LA, don't pay it. You'll be a sucker. And even if the collection agency calls you and says, oh, you better pay or otherwise you're in trouble, the city council said ignore them. You don't have to pay it.
Yeah.
Okay? And the last reason that I hated them was the Orwellian nature. We're being watched all the time. Did you cross on a yellow? Did you cross on a red? Did you do the wrong thing? Did you turn right when you shouldn't have turned right? Big Brother's watching. Oh, piss off, man. Okay, I turned right. What are you going to do? I turned right. Whatever. Is it turn left?
No, they were the legal right turns. You're right.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Furthermore, go.
A barber beats up his employee because when he left, the employee attempted to sell drugs out of the barber shop.
That apparently was the wrong move.
I want to show you guys the interaction they had when the barber confronted his employee.
Jesus. Wow, that guy's getting whipped.
Nigga, I'm gonna take a motherfucking case. Nigga, you gonna take this shit. I'm gonna kill with you. Bitch ass. Fuck it. Man, I will kill you, nigga. You got me fucked up.
Damn, that's serious.
Bro, shut up, bitch. You got me fucked up.
Man, that dude was not playing, man. Okay, in the beginning, I was like, man, that's an ass kicking. Wow, whoa, and then he's throwing the words around. I'm like, yeah. Then I was like, oh, damn, I think he broke a couple of ribs. And that dude knew how to fight, man. He kicked the shit out of that guy. That's a barber you do not want to mess with.
He wants to run a clean business. He doesn't want his employees selling drugs out of his barber shop.
And apparently he was quite serious about it. Okay, J.R. Jackson, what do you say about that kind of action?
Every time you see something like that, my first thought is this barber needs to make sure this guy doesn't come back around. Because especially now, I mean, I don't know how much this is getting play on the internet, but this guy's like, man, I'm all over the internet getting my ass absolutely destroyed. You know, come back looking to kill somebody. You know, it ends. I always think these things can result in that kind of ending. You're like, yeah, I can fight, I can whoop your ass. So the guy gets his ass whooped, says, I can't fight, let me go shoot this guy. You know, if he's already in this kind of realm where he's, you know, trying to protect himself. I don't know how deep into the drug game he was in, but he needs to watch out.
Man, I hope not, man. I hope not. I mean, look, obviously Barber was trying to look out, make sure there's no drugs being sold, et cetera, et cetera. That's your assumption, obviously. But that's a dangerous game. I mean, JR's right in that sense. And so it takes some courage to do that. I almost wish they hadn't put it up on YouTube because JR's right that it might instigate people because, look, it's one thing if you got your ass kicked in private, but if you get your ass kicked on YouTube, you know, it's going to...
People might try to retaliate.
Yeah, you know, and that would be a damn shame. By the way, on the other hand, I don't want to judge the barber because I don't know the situation. I don't know what was going on with the drug dealers, et cetera. But, I mean, that was a pretty serious ass kicking. That wasn't like, hey, I'm going to send a message. That was like, I'm going to mess you up.
Yeah.
Like, we're not just talking about messages. Like there's going to be consequences kind of ass kicking. So, all right, but that's interesting, man.
What, Cenk, You love to fight.
Yeah.
There's always an extent that it gets to where I get uncomfortable. Once it goes to kicks and stomps, I'm like, okay. Fists, arms, everything, hold up, throw somebody around, cool. Once it gets to stomps and kicks, you're like, ooh, that's over the line to me.
You nailed it, Jared. That was my concern with the video, because naturally when you hear the story and the barber's trying to protect the area from the drug dealers, etc., you're sympathetic to the barber, right? The flip side is that guy wasn't really fighting back too much, right? Mm-hmm. And okay, you did the original ass whooping, I got it, right? And obviously that guy can fight, right? But once he's on the ground and he's gone, he's defenseless, right? And you start stomping and kinking, that's where I got uncomfortable. That's where I was like, I don't know, the barber lost me on that one, And so, look, man, once somebody cannot fight back, you got to stop. Mm-hmm. And obviously he's worked up, and he might be worked up for a really, really good reason. I'm not trying to judge him. At the same time, I think there's just some bounds of reason. But he obviously wanted to remove him from the building. That's why he started dragging him out by his feet. Maybe he thought he had to totally incapacitate him to drag him out.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. It's just because the only time you're stomping at somebody is when they're already done fighting. And that's when it gets real bad. And then, I don't know if you guys could hear, there was a little kid talking in there too. Mm-hmm. If I'm in there with my kid, I'm never coming back.
Oh,
I'm not coming back,
Yeah.
I mean, not because I think this guy's going to do something if I've known the barber, whatever. I just don't, whatever environment this is now, I don't want my kid there.
Yeah, I'm certainly not going back for a month. I mean, because you don't know when that dude's going to come back. You don't know when the barber's going to lose it again. I mean, we don't know the guy, but that was some serious violence, So that was interesting. Okay, we have one more video for you.
We do have one more video. It features Priest Nelms, and he wants to give a prayer prior to a NASCAR race in Nashville, Tennessee. So his prayer is definitely something that's getting a lot of attention on the internet, and you'll see why after we watch.
Over here.
Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight for all your blessings. You said in all things give thanks. So we want to thank you tonight for these mighty machines that you brought before us. Thank you for the Dodges and the Toyotas. Thank you for the Fords. And most of all, we thank you for Roush and Yates partnering to give us the power that we see before us tonight. Thank you for GM Performance Technology and the R07 engines. Thank you for Sunoco Racing Fuel and Goodyear tires that bring performance and power to the track. Lord, I want to thank you for my smoking hot wife tonight, Lisa, and my two children, Eli and Emma, or as we like to call them, the Little E's. Lord, I pray you bless the drivers and use them tonight. May they put on a performance worthy of this great track. In Jesus' name, boogity, 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 amen.
All right, I love that guy. Mm-hmm. Okay, because I love that a third of the way through, they weren't sure. Like, you started seeing some people smile, but they're like, should we be smiling? We're supposed to be praying, right?
Right.
And then 2/3 of the way through, they were like, is this dude crazy?
Yeah. I love the audience's reaction, but I also love that he's having fun with his prayer. He's thinking baby Jesus. Okay, that's happening. But he's also thinking his smoking hot wife. And then he ends it with a great boogity boogity boo, or whatever it is that he said.
And at that point, people are like, okay, he's not crazy, he's kidding. Okay, good. Oh, oof. Hey, I'm glad Jesus has blessed GM and every other sponsor of this NASCAR race, and his smoking hot wife, and skittle-dee, skittle-doo, or whatever it is, God bless, right?
Right.
Look, anytime people are looking to have fun, I love it. I'm in favor of it, okay? And so, I don't know if anybody's against it. I don't think anybody is.
No.
I think everybody's in favor of it. But I wish they'd do prayers like that more often. Everybody join in and have fun. You don't even have to be a Christian.
Absolutely. It'd be more entertaining, that's for sure.
Yeah, no question. Instantly, that guy has become certainly among my top 3 favorite pastors in the country.
Really? Who were the other 2?
I don't know. But he's definitely in the top 3, and a skittle-dee, skittle-doo to you.